Welcome to Immigration Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: FirstFT, U.S. delegation visits Taiwan after voters defy China. Why foreigners who endured China's COVID lockdowns now say they have had enough. Immigration crackdowns are good politics but bad economics. Rwanda rebels are betraying Tory values with authoritarian amendments. Sunak's immigration ineptitude has caused Leave voters to ditch the Tories. FirstFT, U.S. delegation visits Taiwan after voters defy China. Financial Times. A delegation of former senior U.S. officials will soon be arriving in Taiwan, putting China's restraint in its response to its democratic neighbor's presidential election to the test. Taiwan recently elected Lai Ching-te as president, giving his Democratic Progressive Party an unprecedented third term. China has denounced Lai as a separatist due to his association with the wing of the DPP that favors formalizing Taiwan's independence. The U.S. mission's other probable purpose is to gain a timely and accurate understanding of Lai's future plans. Why foreigners who endured China's COVID lockdowns now say they have had enough. South China Morning Post. Foreigners living in China have been leaving the country despite efforts to reopen to the outside world. Some foreigners have reported increasing hostility and wariness towards them, while others are concerned about a repeat of their lockdown experiences. These departures come as tensions between China and the West continue to rise. The exodus of foreigners from China began during the strict anti-COVID policies of the past 3 years, which included severe travel restrictions and lockdowns. The number of foreigners living in Shanghai fell by over 20% in the decade leading up to November 2020, the first year of the pandemic. The current figures are expected to show an even greater decrease due to the pandemic controls of the past 2 years. The stories of those who have left in the past year suggest that China will struggle to attract individuals and businesses from abroad. Many foreigners have reported an increasing chilliness towards outsiders and a growing awareness of geopolitical tensions among Chinese people. Concerns about strict controls being imposed again, as well as frustrations with the business environment and economy, are also driving away businesses. Some experts have suggested that China could address these concerns by easing visa policies, allowing international students to take internships in China, and making tourist and business travel easier. The country has recently released a set of policies to relax entry and visa procedures in an effort to draw more overseas visitors and restore people-to-people exchanges. However, the number of foreign students in China has fallen by over 20% since 2019, and many foreign graduates struggle to find suitable jobs that meet work visa requirements. Despite these challenges, the demand for visas to China remains high, particularly among foreigners from developing countries who see China as an opportunity. Immigration crackdowns are good politics but bad economics. Financial Times. The surge in immigration in 2023 played a significant role in the Goldilocks economy, but now the political backlash against immigration threatens this economic windfall, warns the chair of Rockefeller International. The increase in immigration helped to ease labor shortages, slow inflation, and boost consumer demand. However, the recent surge in illegal crossings at the US-Mexico border has fueled hostility towards migrants and may result in stricter controls on immigration. This could hinder economic growth and exacerbate labor shortages, particularly as aging populations are depleting workforces worldwide. Rwanda rebels are betraying Tory values with authoritarian amendments. Telegraph. Conservative MP Damian Green has argued that flights to Rwanda would act as a deterrent to illegal immigration across the English Channel. Green supports the government's Nationality and Borders Bill, which includes provisions for such flights, but has reservations about the legislation's effects. Green opposes proposed amendments to the bill by Sir Bill Cash and Robert Jenrick, arguing that they would undermine the government's aim of deterring illegal immigration and risk a resurgence in small boat crossings. Sunak's immigration ineptitude has caused Leave voters to ditch the Tories. Telegraph. A new poll published by The Telegraph predicts a major electoral defeat for the Conservative Party, with the party projected to win just 169 seats. The poll shows that the Tory vote share is down 18 points in England and Wales and that the party is losing support to Labour, the Liberal Democrats, and Reform UK. The collapse in support is particularly significant among Leave voters, who were a key factor in the party's victory in the 2019 election. The poll also reveals that levels of legal and illegal immigration are key issues for voters who have abandoned the Tories, with 3 in 4 Tory defectors saying that levels of legal immigration should be lower. The article argues that the Prime Minister's strategy on immigration is wrong and that he needs to take bold measures to address voters' concerns. The article also criticizes the PM's leadership style, describing him as weak and out of touch, and argues that he needs to project strength and seriousness to win back support. One key reason inflation is cooling: immigrant workers. Yahoo! The influx of foreign-born workers to the U.S. has helped keep inflation from getting out of control and has brought it down, according to Samantha Ladduck, founder of Ladduck Capital. As a result, she said investors should track the flow of immigrants to help understand the future direction of interest rates and the U.S. economy. For instance, the arrival of workers has eased the labor shortage during the pandemic and tempered wage growth. The trend, however, may not continue and will depend on global and domestic policies. Limited immigration can push up prices, as happened during the pandemic when immigration was stunted. The U.S. economy missed out on about 1 million workers between March 2020 and December 2021, forcing companies to increase wages, said Courtney Schubert, an economist at Macro Policy Perspectives. When you have an environment where wage growth is picking up from, let's say 3% per year to 8%, then that suddenly becomes a massive strain on your bottom line and you have a few alternatives to limit that, said Gregory Dacko, chief economist at EY Parthenon. Fears visa change for British backpackers spells trouble for outback businesses. ABC. Changes to visa requirements for backpackers from the UK are causing concerns among outback business operators in Australia. Previously, backpackers were required to complete 3 months of specified work in order to apply for multiple visas under the Working Holiday Maker scheme. However, from July 1, UK backpackers can apply for these visas without completing the 88-day work requirement. This has raised fears that backpackers will choose coastal towns over outback areas, leading to staffing shortages in the peak tourist season. The change only applies to UK travellers and not to those from other countries. If the Tories don't act, there will soon only be smoking rubble left. Telegraph. A YouGov poll indicates that the UK Conservative Party could face a 1997-style wipeout in the next general election. The poll, which has a track record of accuracy, suggests that the party could lose nearly 200 seats, resulting in a Labour majority of 120. The poll also reveals that the party's 2019 coalition has collapsed, with the Red Wall disappearing and the Tories losing seats in the North and Midlands, as well as in the South East. The collapse in the Tory vote is driven by dissatisfaction with policies including the cost of living, taxes, the health service, and immigration. 3/4 of the voters who have left the party are Leave voters. The poll suggests that the Tories need to address these concerns and set out a vision for a conservative Britain that is different from Labour's policies. If the party fails to do so, it risks losing the support of workers, small business owners, and those who oppose mass immigration. I knew this was the end, and I was relieved. How an unlawful migrant's life in Australia came undone. ABC. An article in the Australian Broadcasting Corporation reports that an estimated 70,000 people live in Australia unlawfully, and that many of them have arrived on student or visitor visas. Some are forced into living in their cars or are homeless, and they struggle to feed themselves as they are unable to work. The article also highlights the vulnerability of undocumented workers to exploitation by unscrupulous employers, with some businesses seeking out such workers in order to avoid compliance with Australian labour law. The government passed a law in 2019 clarifying that Australia's Fair Work Act applies to all workers, regardless of their immigration status, and is now considering extending occupational health and safety and workers' compensation laws to cover undocumented workers. The government also plans to protect migrant workers who take action against their employer from having their visas cancelled, and is considering introducing a short-term visa for people to stay in the country while pursuing justice. The government will also look at decriminalizing illegal work. International law is not sacred, but securing our borders is a duty. Telegraph. The UK government must decide whether to continue subordinating itself to the European Court of Human Rights, ECHR, or regain sovereignty in this area after Brexit, according to an op-ed in The Telegraph. The article argues that international institutions, including the ECHR, are not superior to national democratic alternatives, and that they carry the compromises and hypocrisies of international affairs. The author also criticizes the ECHR for expanding the definition of rights beyond their original meaning and making it difficult for governments to remove illegal immigrants and foreign criminals. Do travel companies really need scans of our passports? The Sydney Morning Herald. Australian travel company Inspiring Vacations recently suffered a data breach in which 112,000 client records were leaked online. The breach exposed sensitive personal information, including passport scans, itineraries, ticket details, and partial credit card information. The data leak was discovered by a security consultant who alerted the company and newspapers. Investigations are ongoing to determine who the hackers were and what information was stolen. The breach highlights the potential risks associated with sharing personal information with travel operators. While some personal information such as passport number and expiry date is necessary for travel arrangements, other information on the passport scan, such as place of birth, signature, and photo, is not. Travel operators often request passport scans as standard practice, even when there is no legitimate need for these details. Travelers are advised to delete unnecessary information when providing passport scans. The breach also demonstrates the importance of travel operators having rigorous protocols in place to protect personal information. In this case, the company was storing traveler information on a cloud-based computing platform that was publicly accessible without a password. Australia may be next for Rohingya refugees running out of places to go. The Sydney Morning Herald. Indonesia's welcome of Rohingya refugees from Myanmar has cooled following the arrival of 1,500 refugees in the country since November. On December 28, a group of students stormed an Aceh makeshift refugee center, resulting in the Indonesian Navy turning away a vessel carrying Rohingya asylum seekers from its waters. The country had been a popular destination for the displaced ethnic minority, as neighboring countries refused to accept them. However, with the recent influx, protests have begun to emerge in Indonesia against the refugees. The UN World Food Programme has been able to increase the monthly food ration in Cox's Bazar, Bangladesh, from $8 per person to $10, following a new round of $235 million in humanitarian aid from the Australian government. The money will also be used to address the security situation in the refugee camps, which is said to be completely out of control. At least 5 people die trying to cross icy English Channel. New York Times. 5 people died and more than 30 were rescued after their boat encountered difficulty while attempting to cross the English Channel from France to Britain. The incident highlights the ongoing issue of people attempting to make the perilous crossing, despite the dangers. Governments on both sides of the waterway have struggled to deter people from making the journey. The French authorities have launched an investigation into the incident. 5 migrants die in icy waters as channel crossings resume. Financial Times. 5 migrants died while attempting to cross the English Channel on Sunday, putting pressure on Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to find a solution to prevent such perilous journeys. Around 70 people tried to board boats near the French town of Wimereux, with 5 being found dead and 1 in critical condition. France's Maritime Prefecture reported that most of the people were rescued. The news comes ahead of a debate on the government's bill to send asylum seekers to Rwanda for processing, a move that has faced legal challenges. Over 30,000 people crossed the channel in small boats in 2023, with 27 deaths that year. Ottawa may rein in temporary resident numbers as housing concerns intensify, Minister says. CBC. Canada's Immigration Minister, Mark Miller, has said that he will scrutinize the number of international students and other non-permanent residents coming into the country in light of increasing political tension around housing affordability and immigration. Miller acknowledged that the relationship between housing and immigration is complex, but stressed that volume is an important factor to consider. The Canadian government has been implementing measures to increase housing affordability, including incentivizing more housing-friendly zoning and regulation changes. Miller also mentioned the possibility of reforming postgraduate work permits or controlling the volume of non-permanent residents. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Six, your trusted observer from the 6 Degrees world. Today, we have an interesting mix of news stories from around the globe. We'll be diving into issues such as international relations, immigration policies, and the impact of immigration on economies. So, let's get started. In Taiwan, a delegation of former senior U.S. officials is set to visit, which will test China's response to the country's recent presidential election. China has expressed its concern over the new president's association with the wing of the Democratic Progressive Party that favors Taiwan's independence. This visit will provide valuable insights into the future plans of the new Taiwanese government. Moving on to China, tensions between foreigners and locals are rising, leading to an exodus of foreigners from the country. The strict anti-COVID policies and concerns about geopolitical tensions have contributed to this trend. To address this issue, China could consider easing visa policies and making travel and business easier for foreigners. In the U.S., the surge in immigration is not only a political hot topic but also has significant economic implications. The recent surge in illegal crossings at the U.S.-Mexico border has fueled hostility towards migrants and may result in stricter controls on immigration. However, this could hinder economic growth and exacerbate labor shortages, especially as aging populations are depleting workforces worldwide. In the UK, the Conservative Party is facing a potential electoral defeat, with a significant collapse in support among Leave voters. Concerns about the cost of living, taxes, the health service, and immigration are driving voters away from the Tories. To win back support, the Prime Minister needs to address these concerns and project strength and seriousness. Shifting our focus to Australia, changes to visa requirements for backpackers from the UK are causing concerns among outback businesses. The fear is that the new visa rules will lead backpackers to choose coastal towns over outback areas, resulting in staffing shortages during the peak tourist season. In terms of global immigration trends, the influx of foreign-born workers has helped control inflation in the US. However, limited immigration can push up prices, as seen during the pandemic when immigration was stunted. The future direction of interest rates and the economy may depend on global and domestic policies regarding immigration. Now, let's talk about the Rohingya refugee crisis. Indonesia, once a popular destination for Rohingya refugees, has started to cool its welcome due to the recent influx of refugees. The Australian government has provided humanitarian aid to address the security situation in the refugee camps and increase food rations for the Rohingya. Lastly, we have tragic news from the English Channel, where 5 migrants lost their lives while attempting to make the perilous crossing. This incident highlights the ongoing challenge faced by governments on both sides of the waterway in deterring such dangerous journeys. In conclusion, today's news stories highlight the complex issues surrounding immigration, international relations, and their impact on economies and societies. As always, I encourage you to share your thoughts on these topics. What are your ideas and opinions? Let's engage in a lively discussion. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.